Professional sports organizations frequently encounter situations where teammate commentary generates public discussion and controversy. Recent media interviews have highlighted how veteran players' perspectives on star teammates can create unexpected reaction when their statements are interpreted differently than intended. Contemporary basketball coverage includes extensive player interviews that provide insight into team dynamics and individual relationships. These conversations often reveal perspectives on leadership, team chemistry, and role distribution that may not align with public perception or media narrative. The Fever, by 35-17, doubled them up in the fourth quarter. Alright, they showed Stephanie White at one point. She's standing with her arms folded, listening to Austin Kelly run the show, and I'm looking at the time and I'm like, can you not be training a manager with a minute 50 left? Veteran players typically assume mentoring responsibilities when working with younger teammates, particularly those receiving significant attention and pressure. The expression of protective instincts and guidance intentions represents normal professional relationship development within competitive sports environments. Media interpretation of player statements can sometimes create controversy when comments are perceived as diminishing or patronizing rather than supportive. The distinction between constructive guidance and implied criticism often depends on context, tone, and audience interpretation rather than speaker intention. Team chemistry discussions frequently include references to role distribution and collective responsibility sharing. When veteran players suggest that star teammates should rely more heavily on supporting cast members, it can be interpreted as either team-building encouragement or subtle criticism of individual approach. The comparison between collegiate and professional basketball environments provides context for discussing player adaptation and role evolution. University programs often require individual players to shoulder greater responsibility due to talent disparities, while professional teams theoretically offer more balanced talent distribution. Player development conversations typically emphasize collective success over individual achievement, reflecting professional sports culture that prioritizes team accomplishments. Veterans often encourage younger players to trust teammates and utilize available support systems rather than attempting to single-handedly influence outcomes. Interview timing can affect perception and interpretation of player comments, particularly when they occur during periods of team struggle or individual adversity. Statements that might be viewed positively during successful periods can appear critical or inappropriate when teams face challenges. The balance between individual excellence and team integration represents an ongoing challenge for star players transitioning from college to professional basketball. Learning to optimize personal contribution within team context requires adjustment period that veteran guidance can facilitate. Media coverage often amplifies minor comments into significant controversies, particularly when they involve high-profile players or teams. Social media discussion can transform routine interview content into major talking points that affect team dynamics and public perception. Professional basketball increasingly features global recognition systems where players across different leagues receive comparative evaluation. The establishment of greatest player discussions reflects growing interconnectedness between men's and women's professional basketball. Fourth quarter, and once again, it is inefficient shooting that is a massive part of the problem. Okay, and look, I understand Kelsey Mitchell ended up scoring 20, but at one point, she was 3 of 10. Aaliyah Boston, 4 of 13. I mean, there's no sizable recognition criteria for elite player status. Typically includes statistical achievement, competitive success, cultural impact, and transformational influence on their respective sports. These multifaceted evaluation standards reflect evolution in how athletic greatness is measured and understood. Young players entering professional basketball often possess sophisticated understanding of both historical achievement and contemporary excellence across gender lines. Their perspectives on greatness frequently reflect broader appreciation for diverse contributions to basketball development. The inclusion of emerging players in historical greatness discussions demonstrates confidence in their trajectory and recognition of early career accomplishments. Such evaluations often consider potential impact alongside current achievement when assessing long-term legacy prospects. Cultural influence and game transformation represent increasingly important factors in greatness evaluation, supplementing traditional statistical and championship criteria. Players Players who fundamentally change their sport's visibility and appeal often receive recognition beyond pure basketball metrics. Earthy Biggs, on the Sparks et al., and Aaliyah Boston should have been down low dominating. 12 points. I mean, she had a double-double at 12 and 10, but tonight it looked like an Angel Reese double-double. Unfortunately, she did have 5 steals. Ari McDonald, she wasn't great from the field, but she did drop 14 points. Audience engagement and commercial impact provide additional context for evaluating player significance within their respective sports. Athletes who generate unprecedented interest and participation often earn consideration for elite status despite relatively brief professional careers. Cross-gender recognition in professional basketball reflects growing appreciation for excellence regardless of league or competitive context. Players who demonstrate respect for achievements across different basketball organizations often receive positive reception for their inclusive perspectives. The evolution of basketball evaluation criteria includes considerations of entertainment value, inspirational impact, and cultural significance alongside traditional competitive measures. This broader framework allows for more comprehensive assessment of player contributions to sport development. Professional sports commentary increasingly emphasizes collective achievement and mutual support rather than individual dominance narratives. This shift reflects understanding that sustainable success requires team chemistry and collaborative excellence rather than singular talent. Added 1 assist, 2 rebounds, 2 steals. Sophie Cunningham had an early spark, 10 points, and she had 4 steals. It was rough. Natasha Howard still looks brutally slow and old out there. And there's just simply no way. They let Kelsey Plum take over this game in the fourth quarter. Player interview content provides insight into team culture and individual relationships that may not be apparent through game observation alone. These conversations reveal dynamics that affect competitive performance and organizational stability. Media training for professional athletes typically includes instruction on message clarity and interpretation awareness to prevent unintended controversy. However, spontaneous interview responses can sometimes create unexpected reaction regardless of preparation. Team leadership structures often involve multiple veteran players who assume different mentoring roles based on their experience and personality. The distribution of guidance responsibilities helps ensure that younger players receive comprehensive support and development. Professional basketball teams benefit from players who understand both individual excellence and collective success requirements. Veterans who can effectively communicate this balance often serve as valuable bridges between star players and supporting cast members. The interpretation of protective instincts versus patronizing attitudes depends largely on delivery, context, and audience predisposition. Identical statements can generate completely different reactions based on these variable factors. And it was a wrap. It was unbelievably awful. And look, somebody asked me tonight, how well do I think the Fever can play without Caitlin Clark? And I said, honestly, they should beat most teams. I can think of 2 teams off the bat that they blatantly should not be able to beat. Social media amplification of interview content often removes nuance and context that affect original meaning. Brief clips or quotes may not capture full conversation dynamics that would clarify speaker intention. Professional sports organizations must manage both internal team chemistry and external perception when players make public statements about teammates. The balance between authentic expression and strategic communication requires careful consideration. Player development in professional basketball includes learning to navigate media obligations while maintaining positive team relationships. This skill development often requires time and experience to master effectively. The recognition of transformational players often occurs during their careers rather than requiring historical perspective for proper evaluation. Contemporary audiences increasingly recognize excellence in real time rather than waiting for career completion. Basketball greatness discussions benefit from diverse perspectives that consider multiple evaluation criteria and acknowledge excellence across different contexts. Inclusive approaches to recognizing achievement reflect sports evolution and growing appreciation for varied contribution, but as currently configured, the Liberty and the Lynx. Alright, with Caitlin Clark, they could beat anybody. But a team like the Sparks, yeah, they should beat this team. And they were beating this team. Until they blew it. Caitlin Clark, right here. Here's your Caitlin Clark highlight. Drinking from a water bottle, right here. That might have been professional athletes who demonstrate respect for colleagues across different leagues and competitive levels, often model positive sportsmanship that enhances overall basketball culture. Such recognition helps build bridges between different basketball communities and promotes mutual appreciation. The Indiana Fever organization experienced another devastating fourth-quarter collapse against the LA Sparks, surrendering what appeared to be a manageable advantage in spectacular fashion during the final period. The defeat highlighted persistent late-game execution problems that have become characteristic of the franchise's performance throughout the current campaign. Statistical analysis of the fourth quarter reveals the magnitude of Indiana's competitive breakdown, with Los Angeles outscoring the home team by a margin of 35-7 points during the decisive 12-minute period. This dramatic scoring disparity represents more than doubling their opponent's output when games are typically decided by marginal differences. The final score of 85-75 reflected a complete reversal of competitive momentum, as Indiana had maintained control through 3 quarters before experiencing systematic failure across multiple aspects of their performance. The collapse encompassed both offensive execution and defensive intensity, creating compounding problems that proved insurmountable. Coaching decisions during crucial moments drew particular scrutiny, with head coach Stephanie White appearing to delegate significant responsibilities to assistant coaching staff during critical late-game situations. With approximately 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining in a competitive contest, observational reports noted White standing with arms folded while an assistant coach directed team operation. This delegation of authority during pressure moments raised questions about leadership hierarchy and decision-making protocols within the organization. Traditional coaching responsibilities typically require head coaches to assume primary control during crucial game situations rather than utilizing training opportunities for subordinate staff members. Individual player performances revealed mixed results despite the disappointing collective outcome. Kelsey Mitchell concluded with 20 points after struggling with early shooting efficiency, demonstrating both individual resilience and the challenges faced when primary offensive contributors experience difficult shooting periods.